Hello class, again this is Sardino, your instructor for this subject, and this is going to be the second part of our lecture on track and field. At the end of this topic, you should be able to perform the various skills required in long jump, and you should also be able to attain high level of performance in athletics. We have discussed at the first part of our topic that track and field involves the track events, field events, and the combination of both. Having said that, for this part, we will focus on the field event, specifically on the long jump. So let's get it on. We are already finished with the running event. Now we will proceed with the jumping event. So our activity for this event is the long jump. The long jump, formerly known as the broad jump, is one of the oldest track and field events for men and women. So ito yung isa sa pinakalumang event na nilalaro sa track and field. Athletes compete in this technically demanding event to see which of them can leap the greatest distance through the air from a running start. So ito, tinetest ito kung gaano kalayo ang pagtalon mo mula dun sa running start. So dito, we are using elements in order to execute the long jump. So we have the run up, the last take off, technique through the air, and the landing. For the run up, ito yung pagtakbo mo para makabuelo ka at para mas malayo yung maabot mo dun sa distansya. For the take-off naman, ito yung take-off kung saan yung last foot mo mag-step dun sa mismong take-off board kung saan before ka tumalon. And then the technique through the air, later on we will be discussing that kung ano yung magiging itsura mo on air before you land. And of course, the last one is the landing. So over the history of athletics, long jump records have been few and far between. Bob Beamon's long jump world record set at the 1986 Mexico Olympics stood for almost 23 years. So ibig sabihin, yung record ni Bob Beamons noong 1986 sa Mexico Olympics ay wala pang nakakatalo for almost 23 years. Okay, before we proceed with the actual execution, how the long jump is being done, let us try to discuss first the long jump pit. When you say long jump pit, this is the area where the long jump is being done. The approach runway made of cinders or synthetic material should be no less than 131 feet or 40 meters long and is often 147.5 feet or 45 meters. The landing area is a sand-filled pit at least 29.5 feet or 9 meters long and 9 feet 2.75 meters wide. Between the two is an 8 inches or 20 centimeters wide take-off board. To the front of it, judges may place a strip of plasticine, soft earth, or sand that will show if the jumper's foot was on the ground beyond the take-off limit. The rules and attempts. When attempting a jump, competitors may tread on the take-off board, but they must not allow any part of their feet to go over its farthest edge, called the scratch line. If they overstep the scratch line, the jump is invalid. A legal jump are signated by a red flag. Each contestant has 3 attempts, known as trials, unless there are fewer than 8 competitors, in which case they may each have 6 jumps. So pwede sila magkaroon ng 6 attempts kung fewer than 8 competitors ang mga maglalaban-laban. At high-level events, athletes must participate in 2 preliminary knockout rounds, the top 8 of whom contest a final. The winner is the athlete with the longest valid jump in the final round. In the event of a tie, the second best trials are taken into consideration. So, para makita natin, para malaman natin kung sino ang mananalo, kailangan yun yung pinaka-farthest jump. dun sa third na trial nila. In case na magkaroon ng tie, yung second trial nila ang i-consider. So kung sino may pinaka-farthest na jump doon, yun ang mako-consider na winner. In the long jump event, there is what we call the 5 steps to heaven. This is somehow related to the elements that I have discussed a while ago. The 5 elements of a long jump are crucial: a fast approach, a well-measured last 2 strides, an explosive takeoff, a long flight, and a well-balanced landing. So yung fast approach, yan yung running, yung tumatakbo ka in order to have yung iyong buwelo, di ba? Then a well-measured last 2 strides. From the buwelo, yung dalawang stride mo, dalawang steps na lang papunta dun sa take-off board. An explosive take-off, syempre, kailangan from the take-off board, malakas yung iyong buwelo. And then, a long flight, kailangan you have a great distance from the take-off board, and then a well-balanced landing. Yan ang pinaka-important, to have a well-balanced landing. Otherwise, it will be counted as invalid if you do not have a good balance in landing. Since speed in the approach is so important, it is not surprising that many competitive sprinters are also top-level long jumpers. So kung mapapansin mo dun sa track and field, kung sprinters din sila minsan, or kadalasan ay athlete din sila pagdating sa long jump. And there are 3 main long jumping techniques that we are going to use: the hitch kick, the hang, and the sail. There's no right or wrong technique, and athletes choose the one that suits them best. So from the 3 techniques, pwedeng mamili ang isang athlete kung anong gusto niyang gamitin na feeling niya magsusut dun sa kanya na pwedeng magiging advantage niya. Okay, let us try to discuss the 3 techniques. First one is the hitch kick. This technique is the hardest to master, but it is the method most frequently employed by elite jumpers. So ito yung karaniwan na ginagamit ng mga elite jumpers. Also known as running in the air, the hitch kick in fact relies on a cycling action to maintain an upright body position. Ito yung sa air, alam niyo si Michael Jordan before they shoot yung bola sa ring. Parang ganon. So ibig sabihin, tumatakbo sila when they are on air. Ayan. On landing, the hitch kickers, yan yung tawag natin din sa mga gumagamit nitong technique na to, hitch kickers, touch down feet first and then push their torso forward to prevent losing distance by falling backward into the pit. So, pinupush nila yung kanilang katawan in order for them to avoid falling backward. Ayan. Para hindi maging invalid yung kanilang jump. The second technique is the sail. The sail is the most basic long jump technique. Once airborne, it is important to help force the body through the air by circling the arms. So, dun sa hitch kick natin, they are using their feet, di ba, para tumatakbo sa air. While in the sail, kailangan mag-arm circling. So, they should first go downward, and then back, and then upward, and then finally forward. So on landing naman, just like the hitch kick, they must attempt to push their body forwards, and so their feet and arms are forced in front of them as far as possible in order for them also to avoid falling backwards. So again, yung hitch kick, di ba, tumatakbo sa air. Dito naman ang ginagamit is yung arms. So para magkaroon pa rin ng buwelo even the athlete is on air. The last technique would be the hang. So sa hang naman technique, both arms and the legs are extended upward to reach a maximum distance from the hips. The limbs are kept long until after the jump has reached the top of the jump, at which point they push the legs forward in readiness for landing. So normally para pataas, so naka-stretch sa ere, and even yung minsan nga naka-arc na gano'n. sa sobrang stretch. So feeling nila, dun kasi nila nakukuha yung buwelo in order to extend the distance. So the hang technique is easiest way to achieve a forward falling finish, which prevents the jumper falling backward and losing distance. Ayan. So ito yung pinaka um, perfect na way in order for them to execute it by not falling backward. So yan. So again, yung hang, so parang naka-extend upward, and even yung parang ini-stretch na yung buong katawan mo before they land and push their torso forward. So yon yung ating tatlong techniques. Okay? So again, the hitch kick, the sail, and the hang. So ang kanilang pagkakapareho is on the landing that they have to push their torso forward in order for them to avoid falling back. But dun sa kanilang pagkakaiba is how they execute it on air. Again, sa hitch kick, they are using their feet to run on air in order to have a maximum distance. While in the sail naman, they are circling their arms. While in the hang naman, more on naka-stretch yung buong katawan niya before they land. Okay? So basically, that would be our discussion for the second part of track and field. So we will now proceed with your activity. So hindi ko na iiwala yung video na yun for the activity. Diretso na tayo para wala nang patumpik-tumpik pa. Boom, karak-karak. Anyway, so what you will do with this activity, you have to use any of the three techniques that was discussed in the topic. So you will be given 2 jumps. So mamimili lang kayo ng isang technique na gagamitin ninyo, and then dalawang trial o dalawang jumps ang gagamitin ninyo. So the perfect final score is 10, and you will be scored dependent on of the jump. So pabibigyan lang kayo ng score kapag nakompleto nyo yung approach, di ba? We have mentioned the 5 steps to heaven. So kailangan makita ko lahat yun from the running up to the landing. Okay? So that would be your activity for this topic. So again, thank you and God bless everyone.
Her name. And she's hitting all the checkpoints that I want. First is running off the board, bringing the heel to the butt, running through, driving that knee and allowing the ankle to kind of relax, then hover over your midway point. Then from there, that jump leg is going to drive up, bringing your knee to your chest. Then that trail leg will then finish its motion, matching for your sweep. Then a full entry and commitment into the pit. So thinking of this, I started with the B